Fox News alert any minute now. President Trump and Prime Minister Starmer join UK leaders for a high-stakes business reception as the UK seems to be at a crossroads when it comes to free speech. And they got a huge border crisis, a immigration crisis. British journalist Jonathan Sachitati joins us now from London. Jonathan, what do you think the people of Britain are hoping to come out of this? Not only the trip, but this presser.
Well, this is quite an embarrassing moment for Britain. Keir Starmer literally had to fire his ambassador to the US just a few days before this visit with a controversy. And so he's trying to do damage limitation. He's trying to make it look like he's calm and in control. That's why the US has been really bigging up and talking up the trade aspect of this. The UK briefed that it was $150 billion plus of incoming trade from the US. Now, that might be true, but it took a lot of massaging to get the figures there. In fact, the US side briefed it at just $10 billion before the visit. So the UK is stitching together a lot of deals that were already made and a lot of future spending to try and make this look as massive as they possibly can.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Bloomberg said it was going to be $205 billion investment in the UK, creating 7,600 jobs, but you're saying that's wildly optimistic.
Well, you could call it optimistic or you could call it positive spin. Certainly, it is good for the UK, and we're seeing a lot of deals. You know, we've seen who's here with him. We've got the Blackstone 90 billion, which is a long-term UK commitment. We've got Palantir up to 1.5 billion. Then we've seen Apple here as well. We've got OpenAI. There is definitely an emphasis on showing that there is great trade going on between the two. And also we have the idea that the tariffs have been favourable towards the US, but a lot more to negotiate even there, especially on steel, where there's still the 25% that Britain was hoping to improve on.
Yeah, they were hoping for zero tariffs on steel and lower the levies on scotch. So the thought is, if they're not going to get that, don't bring it up. Are we at the don't bring it up point in this relationship? It's not going to change?
Well, we're about to see that press conference, and we all know that Donald Trump likes press conferences because he likes to bring everything up. So that's what everyone here is waiting for. And that could be an embarrassing moment, not just on those topics, but also on the British planned recognition of a Palestinian state, something, of course, the US is rightly dead against as a reward for the 7th of October massacre in southern Israel and a reward to Hamas. And that might be something that Trump decides to school Starmer on. We're told that Starmer will be actually waiting just a matter of hours after Trump leaves to announce that, which seems a slightly cowardly way of doing it. And in terms of other things, we might see freedom of speech raised because Trump is big on emphasizing freedom of speech here in the UK, even while there are debates going on in the US over Jimmy Kimmel and the like. And that could be an embarrassment also for the UK. So it may be a question of don't bring it up, but I think that Trump is probably going to bring it up.
When it comes to energy, I hear that when it comes to climate, don't bring it up, because these two couldn't be further apart. But they are on the same page when it comes to nuclear. Could U.S. companies be building nuclear plants in London, in Britain, and would that be accepted?
So there is some planning over nuclear, and that is actually something that the UK are billing as green energy, because actually it is green energy. It's relatively low impact on the environment. So the Brits will be spinning that as an environmental plus. And of course, the other element that's worth noting about this idea is that in terms of the triad of things that they're talking about, it's trade, it's AI, it's tech, and it's energy. So that's actually 4, but it comes as 3 because they're trying to show that the UK and the US are inextricably linked on these very important issues going into the future. And this is similar to what Trump did when he went to the Gulf and he made a whole load of trade deals there. It's trying to be the same thing here in the UK, with the UK becoming an important and indispensable node in the US's future on those 3 things, tying them all together. So the UK emphasizing the incoming trade and the money, but also it's worth noting the strategic importance of those 3 things which are being emphasized today.
2 quick subjects. When it comes to Ukraine, I know they want to have another wave of sanctions. The U.S. came back and said, why are we just doing the sanctions? You should hit China with some secondary sanctions. Does that mean that will be shelved, or could Ukraine be front and center today? Maybe they have something they can agree on that we don't know about.
Well, that's right. And of course, what's important is what's going on in those conversations right now, the bit that we don't see. All that stuff yesterday with the marching bands, the horses, the king, that's all nice to look at. And it's very important as well because it shows the love and warmth between the nations. And the press conference later today will also be important. But the discussions going on right now between Starmer and President Trump, these are important. And what they're discussing on Ukraine will be vital. Of course, the two have somewhat different opinions on that. And many in Britain are hoping that Starmer might be able to be persuasive towards Donald Trump. But Donald Trump is somebody that likes to field a lot of opinions. It's important to note that he has Rubio here as well. He likes to discuss all these things with his close confidants before he makes his mind up and makes decisions. I think that's why he's brought the right people with him on this trip. He'll have those conversations with Starmer, and then I think he'll act how he sees fit.
Jonathan Sacchettati, it's going to be interesting. Always fun to cover Trump on the road and to see how Britain wants to put the great back in Great Britain again. I love that attitude. Thanks, Jonathan. Appreciate it.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.